When you think of Bournemouth, you probably don't think much about them, yet behind the scenes is stuff that nobody has seen before. This is Team 7 of explaining the entire history of the Premier League. We're doing this with every single team, so if you want to see yours, make sure to subscribe. In 1890, a club by the name of Bournemouth FC was founded during the Victorian era and was originally playing against local church teams. The name stayed for 33 years before the name Bournemouth was added as it joined the Football League within the 3rd Division. Now I could go into depth to everything that happened during this time, but to be honest, literally nothing happened. They hovered around the 3rd Division across not just a few years, but the next few decades. The club had limited finances and was practically impossible to get promoted. The highlights of the 50s was their historic FA Cup run, beating 1st Division teams like Wolves and Spurs before narrowly losing to Man United in the next round. This was the first time Bournemouth actually had some spotlight and recognition. Despite this, they remained in the 3rd Division across the 50s and 60s until the 1970s, where finally something interesting happened. But not the good kind. It began well as the club was renamed to AFC Bournemouth to mark a new era for the club. However, weak finances, limited squad development and a crumbling stadium led to them being a yo-yo club between the 3rd and 4th Division. It wasn't great and a change was needed, and that change came in 1983 in the form of Harry Redknapp. His man management skills, talent scouting and attacking football revolutionised the club. It began well as they won the EFL trophy in 1984, their first trophy in the club's entire history. In the same season, they pulled off one of the greatest footballing shocks by beating Man United 2-0 in the FA Cup. This upward trajectory continued, and in 1987, Bournemouth won the 3rd Division League title and were promoted to Division 2 for the first time ever. History had been made. However, what was to happen next would change Bournemouth forever. Their time in the 2nd Division was rather short-lived. They played Leeds on the final day, with Leeds needing a win to get promoted and Bournemouth needing a win to survive the drop. The game ended in a narrow 1-0 win to Leeds, and riots broke out. Damage to the stadium was caused, as well as the fans and the club finances were strained following their relegation. Debts mounted, attendances dropped, and they struggled to pay their players. As a result, Harry Redknapp left in 1992 after falling out with the board as the club further declined. The 90s further emphasised this as the club continued to decline. In 2002, the club were relegated again to the 4th Division. They were now in debt of £4 million. Staff and players were laid off and the club was sent into administration. The only thing that stopped Bournemouth from being completely liquidated was the financial support of the fans. And after the club was promoted in 2003, the club was finally stable again. They sort of remained in the same spot for a few years before falling behind yet again. They entered another financial crisis in 2008 and were declared as in administration not long after. They were resultantly given a 17-point deduction ahead of the 08-09 season in League 2. They had no money, no owners and no manager. The club completely crumbled and were liquidated, marking the end of AFC Bournemouth. Or that's what they thought. They brought in a new young manager, Eddie Howe, who worked around the tight finances by signing young players or free agents. With 10 wins in 21 games, Howe performed a miracle. He beat Grimsby Town to secure safety, marking it as one of the greatest survivals in footballing history. But little did anyone know that this was the beginning of football greatness. Momentum built, and the next season they were promoted to League 1 for just the 2nd time ever. Eddie Howe left for Burnley and the club suddenly found themselves back to being in trouble. Eddie Howe returned 21 months later to meet a struggling Bournemouth who were fighting relegation in League 1. Within just one season, Howe made an incredible comeback and became known for his fast attack in football. After finishing 2nd, they were promoted to the Championship for the first time ever. History had been made and they weren't willing to give up now. They maintained stability within the Championship before in 2015, just 7 years after being on the brink of bankruptcy, the impossible happened. They had done it. They were promoted to the Premier League for the first time in their history. The small club from Bournemouth went from just a local team to competing with English giants. Eddie Howe was praised for his achievements. He trusted in younger players and was known for their high pressing, high attacking football. However, a new challenge awaited him. surviving the Premier League with one of the smallest budgets in the league. It wasn't going to be easy, but thanks to their star player Callum Wilson, Eddie Howe guided this team to 16th place, 5 clear of relegation. They doubled down and finished 9th the next season, the best finish in club history. They remained consistent throughout the next 2 seasons, cementing themselves as a mid-table club. They began well to the 1920 season, however injuries and inconsistent performances led to such a harsh decline. They failed to recover, and in 2020 they were relegated from the Premier League for the first time in 5 years. Following the relegation, Eddie Howe decided to leave for Newcastle, marking the end of the Eddie Howe era at Bournemouth. The club also had to sell a lot of their star players, meaning they had to completely rebuild from start to finish. Their first championship season saw them finish in 6th and were close to coming back up. However, they failed to get through the playoffs. They bounced back the second season, and under Scott Parker, Bournemouth finished 2nd and were promoted to the Premier League, mainly thanks to their main man Dominic Solanke scoring an impressive 29 goals. They defied all odds by surviving relegation and finishing in 15th. They built momentum, and thanks to Dominic Solanke once again, who scored 19 goals, Bournemouth finished 12th. After a bit of chopping and changing managers between Scott Parker and Gary O'Neill, the club decided to hire Irola, who completely changed the club, helping them break records, finishing 9th with a record 56 points this season, as well as reaching the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. So with high prospect players, where will Bournemouth finish next season? While you think about that, why not watch this video right here?